if you like eerie and unforgettable memories, if you like choices that come back to haunt you in your life, if you liked abrupt twists in a story, well, I've got two for you. One about a love that goes bonkers on a dime, and one of such atmospheric horror you are shook by its southern gothic vibes. Two tales that leave you unsettled long after the story ends. Let's go. Welcome back to Tim and Toll Reads. This is take number 20, probably. And guess what? You're going to get it unedited. I am going to go with this, bloopers and all. So let's get going. So I take recommendations for short stories and get a lot of great feedback on this series. And I love doing short stories. I think they're great. I love reading them. I think it's a great format. It really showcases the authors. And I got a recommendation from Rob Ritz one of my subscribers, and he's like, hey, have you ever tried Joyce Carol Oates? And I said, no, but I'm going to look into it. And lo and behold, I found a short story in this collection, The Best American Mystery Stories, 2007 edition, edited by Otto Penzler. And I found Joyce Carol Oates' short story, Meadowlands, in this omnibus collection. It is published around 2006, 22 pages in length, obviously suspense mystery type thriller. And let's jump right into the summary. Katie Flanders is a girl looking for love at the arm of an on and off again boyfriend named Fritzy Checky. And Fritzy Checky's an interesting character in and of himself, and we'll talk about that. But he is giving Katie mixed signals, and he's obviously not over wife number 3, which, by the way, they're still legally married. And so Katie and Fritzy are having a day date. They go to none other than the Meadowlands racetrack to do some betting and check on Fritzy's horse, Morningstar. Yes, Fritzy has a horse and he likes to bet and he likes to drive nice cars. And he lets Katie drive the car to the racetrack. Katie is enamored by Fritzy and excited for him, but trying to be the good girlfriend because Fritzy's a little superstitious and wants to make sure that he wins today. So that way he'll be happy and she'll be happy. And so that's kind of the summary of this short story, but what transpires has a really huge twist. And so what makes it a good short story? First and foremost, as I mentioned, this is my first foray into Joyce Carol Oates. Again, thanks Rob Ritz one. It is nicely paced. It is nicely prosed. She doesn't spend too much amount of time on one particular aspect. I think her character development, directly and indirectly, was really good in this 22-page short story. She packs a lot in here, leaves enough unsaid to read between the lines and put your own theories at some of the minor details. And I thought it was really well done. It didn't really drag at any parts, and it kept me interested. Even the parts talking about the build up to the races in their betting, when Fritzy spends time with his horse Morningstar and the jockey and the trainer and everything else, and the horse nips at Katie, and it was really interesting. And then at the end of the betting and the end of the races, something bizarre happens. And I'm not going to get into the spoilers, but it is abrupt. And I really felt like it was a really good way to kind of bring confrontation to a head and climax the book really, really well. Did anything about this short story or anything about Joyce Carol Oates' writing put me off? Absolutely not. In terms of rating, I gave this a 4.2 out of 5. I thought it was a really good short story. I really enjoyed it. Overall, I thought Joyce Carol Oates' writing is right up my alley. I look forward to reading more of her. I can tell from reading this short story why people think she's the queen of short stories, so I'll be on the lookout for more from her. And I want to again thank Rob Ritz one for recommending me to Joyce Carol Oates. And that is the short story Meadowlands. And so now we'll go into short story number 2. And I went back to this collection, Interior Darkness by Peter Straub. This short story is called Pork Pie Hat. This was published in 2000. This short story was 55 pages in length. It is a fiction horror story. And so the summary of this short story, Pork Pie Hat, it is a framed narrative about a jazz saxophonist named Hat, who tells a chilling story to a young college student who's fascinated with jazz music. And it revolves around Halloween night during Hat's childhood in the Deep South, specifically Mississippi. A lot of S's there. Hat and a friend ventured into the woods and witnessed a terrifying event that changed both of them forever, mainly Hat. And the story interweaves both themes of trauma, racial tension, the supernatural, and it leaves readers questioning what was real and what was imagined by Hat. So, what makes this a really good short story? Well, I'm always a sucker for a story within a story, and this one definitely has that aspect of it. I really liked the character of the college student who gets hooked on the jazz scene, really likes Hat and his music, and lo and behold, wants to, when he's working on his master's, do a thesis regarding Hat and jazz because there's not a lot out there about Hat from a publication standpoint. And then he, on a whim, decides, hey, I'll go and check out and see if he'll do an interview so I can get some content to write about this. And that's when things get really kind of weird and he gets sucked in to doing this interview at Hat's place, and he lives in a hotel, and it's just very interesting. I really liked then when we get the story within the story and we get Hat's life in the Deep South and this event that happened on Halloween along with his family members and backstory. And that's when it gets really kind of haunting from a Southern Gothic kind of standpoint. Excuse me. The psychological drama within this thing is really quite well done. I think Straub really hit it out of the park with that. I think, the whole story is very kind of relatable, especially the story within a story, because it talks about Hat and this friend, and on Halloween night they go trick-or-treating, but they really want to go to this place where there is an integration of African American and whites. That we're talking in the 40s and 50s, and they're living kind of in the backwoods outside of a kind of a town, and they want to do it as a dare, and it's Halloween and it's dark and it's very eerie, and it just seems like it's something very relatable for kids that weren't in front of electronics all the time would do. And so I really enjoyed it from that perspective, being kind of a Generation X type person who grew up playing outdoors and playing at night. That just was very relatable to me. In terms of excerpts in this thing, I have a couple, and I thought they're really good. The first one was, you start to grow up when you understand that the stuff that scares you is part of the air you breathe. I thought that was really indicative of the kind of mood and theme that he created in this story. And then the next one was, I don't tell this story for you to understand. I tell it because it's the only way I can make peace with it. And I thought that was really indicative as well. In terms of rating, I gave this a 4.4 out of 5. I thought it was a great short story. I thought Straub really kind of hit this out. I do have one kind of nitpick. I think it was a little, the build-up before we get the interview and the story within the story, I thought was a little long-winded, a little bit. But it definitely kept it out of 4.5, 4.6 for me. But it's really good. I definitely think it's worth it. Again, 55 pages, even you can read this in the afternoon. I really enjoyed it. Peter Straub has hit it off on both of the short stories I've read in this collection have been really good. So I definitely recommend, if you find this collection out and about, you definitely should pick it up. And that is my short stories for this episode of Saturday Shorts. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you all on the next one. Thanks.